What's up, everybody? It is Dr. Karen here, and today I am talking about dissertation timelines. Specifically, I'm answering the question of how long should a dissertation take, really? And I'll talk a little bit about a thesis as well, because I know that there are a lot of people in this group who are in varying programs, whether it be a master's program or a doctoral level program. And I get this question a lot, and it's really interesting because everybody's doctoral journey is a little bit different. But what I have found is that usually by the time people get to the point where they're reaching out to me, their doctoral journey has not gone how they've expected, meaning that it's usually dragged out way longer than they anticipated. And a lot of times people are wondering if this is normal, or they're very aware that they should have been done by now, and they're concerned and just trying to figure out where they should be in the process. And it gets very frustrating because a lot of times people are in a situation where, you know, their friends and loved ones or maybe even colleagues are nagging them and asking them, are you done with that doctorate yet? Have you finished the dissertation yet? And it's like this constant thing. So whether they're writing regularly or not, or maybe they've been putting it off, it's always this thing that they're thinking about and thinking, gosh, I need to do this. Or, maybe they've got people who are not just asking, but nagging, like when is this going to be done already? Like, when can we, especially if it's a significant other or a family member, like when can we move on with our lives? When are you going to be done with this degree? Or maybe that's other people in their lives aren't asking that, but they are seeing other people that maybe they started their program before or at the same time, and they've been going through their program together, and they're finding that their colleagues are all getting their degrees, moving on with their careers, moving on with their lives, or at least getting to the point where they can spend their free time reading a book or doing some type of leisure activity or spending time with their families instead of just having to work on this dissertation that's essentially like a ball and chain. And a lot of people start to wonder, is it normal for this to be torture? Like, am I getting hazed? Or is this supposed to just drag out for years? Because a lot of people do end up dragging it out. Maybe it takes them 10 years to finish their doctorate, or maybe they have invested 10 years worth of time in a doctoral program, and they're wondering, like, should I be in here this long? Like, is it to the point where I should throw in the towel and just not do it? So I wanted to talk a little bit about my own dissertation timeline and just some other people's that I've worked with, and just to give you an idea of how this works, because it's a little bit different whether it's a thesis or a dissertation, and it varies based on your specific type of study, but there is a general flow that you can expect if you are in a doctoral program. So first, let me talk about how it was for me and what some of the holdups were and just the general flow. So a lot of times before you do your dissertation, you have to do a comprehensive exam or some type of a board exam. And so that is what I had to do. And what my comprehensive exam looked like was my committee gave me 2 questions that I had to answer. And they were essentially very long essay questions. And it was like I was writing a journal level article for each one. And so the manuscript for each question that I had was, hey, everybody who's popping in, what I ended up having was that I ended up, for my comprehensive exams, I ended up writing 2 different papers that ended up being like 30 to 40 pages each. So that started for me, I believe it was May, I got my comprehensive exam questions. So that took me 2 months to finish. And so that took us to, I got them in May, I turned them in August. And then I had to wait for my committee to be able to meet so I could defend my comps. But I was done in August, but then I had to wait a month because my committee, they weren't under contract over summer, so that we had to wait a little bit. And so let's see, that took us into September. I defended my comps, and let's see, I think my actual defense date, because my comps were actually due in September, ended up being a month after that. So here we are, it's like October, and I'm just defending my comps now. And I had actually originally anticipated that I would do comps in the summer and dissertation proposal in the fall. So here we were, I'm already registered for dissertation proposal in the fall, and I haven't even defended my comps yet, because that's just how it worked with the university. So I didn't end up getting around to my proposal until about November. So here we are, it's like the semester, I think I'm gonna do my proposal. It's already basically the end of the semester. So I didn't actually start working on my proposal, which is for me was the first 3 chapters. I didn't really start working on that until December of that year. So for me, this was 2013. Okay, so comps goes from May until November, and then now December, I'm finally starting to work on my my proposal and my prospectus. So December, I start working on the original proposal, which is like the first couple pages, or not the first couple pages, but I would say about a 10-page document that outlines what my first 3 chapters are going to be. So that's December. I get it approved. And so that means that over the holidays, I can finally start working on my first 3 chapters. So here we are, December 2013. So then we move along. I ended up defending my proposal, which is my first 3 chapters. So intro, lit review, and my methods, I ended up defending that in March. So basically I get my approval to actually go forward with my study, and I've got a really solid draft of the first 3 chapters. Obviously my committee had some tweaks that we had to make, so I did that, but basically my committee has said, okay, go ahead and collect your data for your study. So then what I had to do is that I had to hustle, and I had to get my IRB approval in, because at my university, IRB does not meet over the summer, or they only meet once over the summer. And I was working for a school district at a time. I was going to collect data with my students. So I absolutely had to, if I was going to graduate within the time frame that I wanted, I had to start collecting my data right away in the school year. So I could not wait and dilly-dally with my IRB. It had to get approved by May. So I had to hustle right after my committee approved my proposal and get done with that IRB so I could get it done by May. So by the end of May, here I am. I've got IRB approval. I have got my my first 3 chapters pretty much done, pretty much outlined. And so now I have the summer, and I can't collect my data yet because I was doing my study in a school. If I would have been in a situation where I didn't have to wait till the school year, I could have started collecting my data then. So basically this whole timeline could have been pushed up 3 months. But because of the nature of my study, I had to wait. So here we go, summer. I'm kind of just logistically making sure that everything is in place. Like I'm talking to the teachers who I was going to do my study with. I'm getting approval from the principal to collect the data. I am making sure I have my measurement procedures ready. I am recruiting graduate students to help me collect my data. And then I also recruited a graduate student to help me do inter-rater reliability for some of my rating scales. But really, honestly, I was doing a lot of being really antsy and twiddling my thumbs and really just wanting to get started. So come fall, the first week of school, and keep in mind, I'm also working in the school full time. I am busting my ass to get all my consents back for my participants. I am, again, within those first weeks of school, starting to collect my pre-test data because I did some interventions in the classroom. I'm training my teachers, getting all of that done for my study. So basically August through November, I am doing my whole study and collecting my data. So then, get all my data collected. It's the end of the semester. So now we're an entire year after I started. So keep in mind, this is 12 months later. I've got my data collected. I had to talk to my statistician once my results were done and run my stats. And then basically over the holidays, I started working on my final chapters. I actually, I barely ever got sick when I was working in the schools except for colds. And like right after I got my data done, it's like my body just shut down and I got the flu for 2 weeks and I missed all of this work. So it was like, I don't know, somehow the powers that be let me stay healthy until I was done collecting my data and I didn't get the flu right in the middle of it. So thank you for that. But I ended up writing up my results over the holidays. And then basically by the time I came back, January, February, I had drafts of everything. And so what I was doing was just putting the finishing touches on everything and just going back and forth with my statistician and making sure that my numbers were making sense and I was doing everything correctly. I was talking to a couple other members of my committee who were content experts, and I had another person on my committee that was good with stats. She wasn't a statistician, but I had to kind of combine both of them together because he was all numbers. She was a little bit of numbers and then a little bit of applied. So between the both of them, I had to piece together both of their advice to figure out what I was actually saying that was making sense. So that brings us to about February. I was doing all of that, and I am, let's see, the last couple weeks of February going back and forth with my chair, getting the drafts ready, and then a couple weeks before my defense in March, I get my drafts into my committee. I believe it was 2 weeks before I had all of my drafts of my 5 chapters into my committee, and then I defended in March and passed. And then all I had to do was get all of the formatting things ready for the university and submit it. So long story short, it took me from basically December 2000. Oh, wait, I said 2013 before. December 2000. Let's see. December 2013. Okay. So sorry, guys, let me look at my timeline here. So it was December 2012. And then all the way I went to from May 2014 is when I graduated. So basically for me, it took me 18 months. Doing the math in my head here. So it took about 18 months for me. It would have taken me about 12 months to finish the whole thing if I didn't have that gap in there for the summer. So long story short, you can finish a solid dissertation in about 12 to 18 months. I have seen people who are somehow miraculously able to do it in less time, depending on their study. I have seen people take way longer than that, but use that as a guideline. And some of these things that I'm sharing with you, where really it is a lot of times there's a lot of logistics and planning that go with it, and there are a lot of things where you think you've got your ducks in a row and then you don't, and you really have to be resourceful and flexible in figuring out how to get this done. But really what has helped me and a lot of the clients that I work with is to, when you're going into the process, have at least some kind of an idea of when your ideal finish date is. And then what I have people do is block it into 90-day chunks to figure out, okay, generally speaking, what am I doing each 90-day block? And then within those 90 days, what's going to be happening? And you get more specific with that timeline, the closer that you are to the present time. So for example, like, I'm not going to be that specific about what I'm doing in my 90-day block that's a year on out. I know what's going to happen. I have a general idea, but I'm not thinking about that right now on a day-to-day basis. I have an idea of that, and I'm thinking about that, but what I'm doing in order to move myself forward is that I am focusing on this present period of time. So this present 90-day push or so is what I call it. So because a thesis or a dissertation, I would say the standard timeline for a lot of people, it can get done in 12 to 18 months. What I recommend people doing is breaking that time into 4 to 5 90-day blocks and figuring out exactly what needs to happen during those time periods. And if you have that in your head when you go into this process, then a lot of times it can help you to be realistic with what's expected, and it can also help you to figure out how to avoid procrastination, because a lot of times people think, oh, I have 6 months to finish this. I'm fine. I can just wait a little bit. But what happens is that you fail to realize that there are things that you need to be doing now in order to make sure that that happens in 6 months or 12 months or whatever the timeline is. And a lot of times the reason that people end up getting stuck or end up pushing it out way longer is because they failed to plan for those things and they just didn't realize what they needed to be doing. Or because this is something that is so big and it's mapped out over, could be over a year for you, it's just really overwhelming. And what you have to do is understand the macro, so the big picture of what you're doing, so that you can stay focused in the micro, in those specific day-to-day tasks. Because whether you realize it or not, if you are in the middle of a dissertation, what you're doing right now and how you're spending your time this week, this month, can impact what happens a year from now. And people who aren't able to put those two together are the ones that end up dragging their dissertation out longer. So is it possible to finish it sooner than that? Yes, especially if you're doing a thesis, because a thesis is a little bit different. A lot of times you're doing it in tandem with your program. A lot of times even dissertations are like that as well, but it's less typical. A lot of times in your doctoral work, you do coursework, comprehensive exams, then dissertation. For a master's thesis, a lot of times you do your thesis in tandem with maybe the last 2 semesters of your work. Even with the thesis, though, you've got to be on it because you've got to balance it with coursework. But it can still take 6 months to a year for a thesis as well. But having this idea just gives you an idea of what to expect. Now, is it normal sometimes for a study to sometimes go longer than 18 months? And should you throw in the towel if you've gone longer than that? Absolutely not. Depending on your study, you might have something where maybe you're doing an ethnographic study and you're living within a culture for a year, and that's going to be your dissertation. Well, if your data collection is going to take you a year and you've planned for that, obviously the entire thing is going to take you longer than that. But it's part of the plan. So in that situation, it would be okay. But in general, if you have found that you have been stuck at any stage for longer than a couple months, so for example, like if your proposal, like your first 3 chapters, has taken you 6 months to a year and you found that you haven't been able to get past it, that is, I hate to use the word normal because it does happen to a lot of people, but that does not have to happen. It is definitely possible for you to get done sooner than that. And if that is not okay to you, according to your standards, it's okay to not be okay with that, because it doesn't have to take that long for you to finish something. Same with your write-up of your results in your discussion. This is a place where a lot of people that I work with get stuck because they might get stuck with analyzing their data. So if you have your data, you should be able to start writing those results chapters up, the results in the discussion. You should be able to make substantial progress within a couple months. If you haven't, that is, again, not a reason to throw in the towel on your degree, but it's kind of a red flag that you're in that group of people that is at a higher risk for not finishing the degree. And again, remember, about half of people end up finishing their dissertations and finishing doctoral programs. And the reason is that they get stuck somewhere along the way in the dissertation process. So what is the kind of a red flag and one of those significant risk factors that you are in the group that that you're likely to be more in that group that isn't going to finish is when you have something that has taken longer than normal. It doesn't mean that the game's over for you, but that is something that should be a red flag for you to say, hey, this is something that I do not need to accept. I should be doing something about this to turn this around now, because it doesn't have to be that way. If you are sitting there and it's been like 6 months to a year and you haven't touched your data, the risk is that a lot of times when we leave doctoral programs, especially if maybe we've left to start a job because we think, okay, I don't have to be on campus anymore. I can work and earn income while I'm working on my degree, or whatever reason, maybe a great opportunity came across our plates and we just want to start it. And we figure, like, I will still finish my dissertation. But if something like that has happened where we've lost momentum, or maybe we are, we didn't have a significant change, but for whatever reason we're stuck, the reason that your risk goes up that you won't finish it is that feeling of momentum that you get when you're working on something. Losing momentum is one of those things that it makes it difficult for people to continue. It's kind of like if you're, for example, I'm a runner. Like if I am running every day for the last, year, it's not that hard for me to just throw on a pair of running shoes and go for a run, because I'm already in shape. I'm already used to doing it. My body is used to that kind of work. If you're not used to writing and dissertation level writing, it's like you get rusty. And it's like, somebody who hasn't run for a year and they go for a run. Well, yeah, it's going to burn a little bit. It's going to hurt. Like if I'm injured and I don't run for a while, then the first time out, my lungs are burning and I want to stop every step of the way. Whereas if I'm in shape, I'm cruising along. It's the same thing with writing. So whenever you have some of those roadblocks, it makes it a lot harder to keep going. So I encourage you that, be aware of this timeline. Don't use it as something that's like a rigid thing that like every situation has to be exactly like this, but use it as a general starting point in your mind to just evaluate your own situation. It does not have to take you, 6 months to a year to get past one chapter or even a couple of chapters. The only situation where it could take longer is again, like if you've got some very unique situation from a data collection standpoint where, maybe you're going to be like, you have to go to another country to collect your data and you've planned for it to take 6 months to a year or something like that. But if you don't have a situation like that, you should be moving forward and you should be moving through those chapters. You should be able to make significant progress every couple months. So, if you look at, like, if it's December, I should look back to what I did in August and think, oh, wow, I've gotten a lot done since then. If you are in a situation where you have gotten stuck along the way and you're thinking, based on this timeline that I've just shared, or based on what I see my peers doing, and just based on the progress that I've made the last couple of months, I really don't think I'm where I need to be. And if you feel like you're really losing motivation, then yes, that does put you at risk for being in that camp of people that doesn't finish. But it does not have to be that way. Sorry, my phone's ringing here. Okay. Sorry, guys. If you are in a situation where, again, you've been held up along the way and you're feeling like the risk of you not finishing is going up, whether it be because of what you're seeing your colleagues do and you're noticing that you're different, if you have been at the same stage for 6 months to a year and you haven't made progress, or if you're seeing other people in your program that maybe started at the same time as you and they're just passing you up and getting their degrees, then you don't have to accept that, and you don't have to still continue to be at risk for those people who tend to lose their momentum and really give up on their dream of being a doctor and finishing this degree. So it's certainly possible, even if you might have been stuck at a certain stage for the last couple of years, it's still possible for you to turn that around and be able to finish that dissertation. And especially, if you have lost that momentum, now is the time that you can turn that around so that all of those years of hard work don't have to go to waste, and you don't have to wonder what might have been. So if you are in any of those situations that I just described, as far as just, knowing that you're not where you could be, I would love to get on a call with you and help you out. So how it works is that I will share the link to my calendar in the comments below, and then you'll just pick a time that works for you. And what we do on this call is get a very clear picture of your situation and exactly where you're getting stuck, and figure out exactly what is keeping you from moving to that next level, and seeing if we can support you in that process. So all you need to do to schedule a call with me and see if we can support you in finishing your dissertation or thesis is to click on that scheduling link and schedule a call. And we'll take about 45 minutes to an hour and talk through your situation and see if we can support you. So everybody who hopped on today, thank you so much for listening, and have a great Monday, and feel free to reach out.